Welcome in to News and Views with Tom Lamprecht. The stories you've heard and the ones you need to hear.
The blatant lies the Democrats have made about Georgia's new election law.
The law actually expands voting in Georgia.
They think Joe Biden's welcoming into this country.
CBS cut that out.
It appears that Officer Chauvin's knee was more on Mr. Floyd's shoulder blade.
Yes.
Your life, your values, your voice. This is News and Views with Tom Lamprecht on Talk 96.3 and 103.7.
All right, welcome back. Yes, we are here. Hope you had a great Easter. I enjoyed my R&R. We're back in the saddle. I've got to say, over the couple of days I was off, I am so sick of identity politics. I'm sitting... One of the days I was off, I was sitting having the oil change in my car. And, you know, they have these waiting rooms. And in this waiting room, they had the NBC Today show on. First thing they had up there was a story about an Arab woman NASCAR driver. Now, the story wasn't about this person because she was a good NASCAR driver. I mean, she seemed like a very nice lady. She's actually living in North Carolina now, working with a NASCAR team. But the reason why they had the story was because she was an Arab woman NASCAR driver. Then they come up with another story about the Screen Actors Guild Awards. And the finalists for something, I wasn't paying that much attention. I really don't give a hoot about the Screen Actors Guild Award. But I noticed that the reason why this was such an important story, because all the finalists in this one category were all people of color, and how important that was. You had two back-to-back stories, and it was all about identity politics. Now, I'm not saying this woman wasn't a good NASCAR driver. I'm not saying these people weren't good actors. But have the story because they're good actors, not because they're people of color that happen to be nominated for it. Then I'm driving back to the office, and they have the story about the new UNC head coach, Hubert Davis. And you know what? I think, and I thought all along, he would probably be the next head coach, and he'd be a great head coach. But the newscast was not about the fact that he'd make a great head coach or he was the new head coach, but it was because he is the first black head coach of UNC. And I thought to myself, well, in the last 70 years, there's only been 5 head coaches. Going back to 1952, it was Frank McGuire. Then it was Dean Smith. Then it was Bill Guthridge. Then it was Matt Doherty. Then it was Roy Williams. That's been it. In almost 70 years, 69 years. And all these people are deserving of the positions they've gotten. And maybe, I don't know anything about the Screen Actors Guild. But could we just elevate people and promote people and talk about people because they're good at their craft, not because they're Arab or black or people of color. Anyway. Yes, it doesn't take me long to get back in the saddle, start complaining. So while I was off, one day I was in the car when I was off, and I get a call from Keith Kidwell. Keith and I are friends, and we text each other and call each other often. But he says, Tom, I've got the perfect clip for you. And this would have been on Thursday when Keith many times is in studio with us. And it was concerning the bill that Keith was the primary sponsor of, House Bill 264, which is the bill requiring the governor to get consensus from the Council of State for statewide emergency actions to last more than 7 days. And there are other states that have done the same thing. John Bell, Goldsboro Republican, talked about the fact that Kansas, Ohio, and New York have reconsidered how much power a governor should hold in an emergency, as North Carolina is. And, of course, last year we had Senate Bill 105, which was similar. That passed the House and the Senate. And by the way, this 264 bill passed right along party lines, 69-50, all Republicans voting for it, all Democrats voting against it. So unfortunately, that probably means it's not going to be veto-proof. I don't think the Senate has voted on that yet. But when they were discussing the bill last Wednesday, Keith gets up, is explaining parts of the bill, and then Amos Quick, who's a representative from Guilford County, had a question and some comments about the bill. I want you to listen very carefully at what Amos Quick says as he is speaking against the bill. First, here's Keith, and this is cut 3, Clark. First is Keith, then it goes to Representative Quick. All right. So we're loading it up as we speak. So anyway, this happened last Wednesday, and it's really interesting because what Representative Quick says is what we have been saying about the governor for a long, long time. We got ready to go? About ready to go.
What this bill seeks to do is to give that aid and assistance to the governor, because when making decisions of this size, of this impact, we need the advice of the education. We need the advice of ag. We need the advice of transportation. We need the advice of as many people as we can possibly put up there to properly handle pandemics. We all watched the movie years ago, I think it was 20 years ago, the movie Pandemic, and we were all like, that'll never happen. You know, we got way too smart a scientists for that, but yet here we are. And I do recall in those movies, they always had every possible person who had any awareness or intelligence at all related to the matter helping them. And that is what this bill seeks to do. I appreciate your support on the bill. I'll stand for any questions.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Guilford, Representative Quick, rise?
To ask the bill sponsor a question.
Does the gentleman yield to a question?
Certainly, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative Kilwell. If I read the bill correctly, if this bill passes and becomes law, the governor would have to go to the Council of State within 7 days, and then in subsequent 30-day increments, go back to the Council of State and seek majority approval for continuing the state of emergency declarations.
You do read that correctly.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, may I speak to the bill?
The gentleman has the floor to debate the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Unfortunately, this is not a movie. This is real life. This is a global pandemic. It is not Governor Cooper or any other governor waking up one morning and deciding that they want power. It is a response to a pandemic that hit the whole world in March of last year, and probably even before that. I regret that we think the response to this, or some of us think that the response to a global pandemic, is to strip the powers of a person whose crown none of us would probably want to wear in this current environment.
Whose crown none of us would want to wear. The governor, we've been calling him the emperor for a long time on this program, and now we have Amos Quick from Guilford County, Representative Amos Quick from Guilford County, has acknowledged that the governor actually wears a crown. You can't make it up. None of us would want to wear the crown that the governor wears. Anyway, the House has passed it. The Senate will pass it. The governor will veto it. And this needs to be reintroduced every year until we get a Republican governor who will go ahead and allow it to become law. By the way, why do Democrats push for vote by mail at all cost? Interesting article. This is actually a study out of the University of Virginia. First and Freedom Daily ran an article on this today. Now, the mail-in votes in the 2020 general election accounted for 18% of all the votes. But of those 18%, Joe Biden won 71% of the vote. Donald Trump, of the mail-in ballots, won 28%. Biden 70.6%, Donald Trump 28.0%. It's no wonder, with those kind of numbers, that the Democrats want to do everything to protect mail-in ballots, to expand mail-in ballots, to encourage mail-in ballots. And if you are wanting to, now look, I'm all for absentee ballots that are legitimately requested, that you verify who you say you are. You get your ballot for a good reason that you have to vote absentee. Send it in. That's fine. But what the Democrats want to do, they want to send in these states. They're doing this now. These Democrat-controlled states, everybody gets a mail-in ballot, whether you ask for one or not. And that's what the Democrats would like to do here in North Carolina. Everybody gets a mail-in ballot. Don't worry about whether if it's you or somebody else. We're going to send your house a mail-in ballot. As many as we can. And if you speak against that, you are a racist. By the way, speaking of bills being proposed, kudos to our own Norm Sanderson of Pamlico County. First and Freedom is reporting that the trans movement, which represents the apex of fluidity, I'm a gal today and I'm a guy tomorrow, or maybe even next hour, and then I can go back to being whatever. It's absurd. It's an assault on truth. It's an assault on absolutes. And by the way, did you see over the weekend, CNN ran a story saying that there is no consensus criteria for assigning sex at birth? You can't tell. You have no idea whether it's a boy or a girl. Obviously, biology wasn't high on the list of the CNN reporter Devin Cole, who said it's not possible to know a person's gender identity at birth, and there is no consensus criteria for assigning sex at birth. Isn't that good to know? We have been wrong since the beginning of time, but CNN has got it right. So anyway, the trans movement, all about being what you want to be when you want to be it. And the elite that are much smarter than the rest of us. I mean, we don't have the depth of knowledge that the elites have. But they want to, look, in some places, now, in some places, they finally come to their senses, like over in England, and they're saying, no, we're not going to do this to minors. But in many places, if a child is a little boy and he thinks he might be a little girl, we're going to give him chemicals. And in some places, they'll even cut off Uncle Albert, make him a little girl if that's what he thinks. Congratulations to North Carolina Republican senators, all three, Ralph Heiss, Warren Daniel, and Norm Sanderson of Pamlico County. They have filed legislation to prohibit gender reconstruction surgeries and other gender-transforming medical treatments on persons under the age of 21 years old. Senate Bill 514. And by the way, this is getting national attention. NBC News picked up on this today. And of course, and I'll get to the interesting part, but of course, you know, what do these mainstream middle of the road liberal networks do? They immediately go out and find some yo-yo to get their opposing viewpoint, like they've actually got some credibility. Senate Bill 514 is getting attention from the national media as a natural consequence of their role as guardians of the woke culture. Of course they are. As such, any legislation that resists this imposing new dogma is spotlighted and marked for maximum pain and shaming. The headline itself presenting the bill as denying treatment is enough to reveal their role. And that's exactly what the national media went out and found an individual. What was the person's name? I'll find it here in a second. But found an individual who immediately said that what these people are doing when a bill like this, Senate Bill 514, comes forward, they are denying transgenders medical treatments. And the inference is that if you're a transgender, we're not going to treat you for anything. If you're a transgender, if you think you're somebody who you're not and you have, you know, an appendicitis, you're not going to get treatment because you're transgender. That's exactly how they try to frame this. The Senate Bill 514, though, will basically say that if you're under the age of 21. Now, again, we know that in life there are physical, sexual anomalies that need to be addressed, and there are exceptions in this bill for that. But this idea of mastectomies, I can't even pronounce some of the names of when you remove certain organs or try to change certain organs. Look, and you have these stories out there where, a man delivers baby. It's possible for men to have periods too. Yeah, right. But this is an important bill. It is a needed bill because the radicals on the left that are a part of the sexual revolution culture, the woke culture, they're going to do anything in the name of, quote, sexual freedom, including mutilating children. And it is nothing other than child abuse. So again, and follow this. The Senate will pass it, the House will pass it, and watch the emperor veto it, because that's exactly what will happen. But nonetheless, this bill is it is great that these three senators introduced this bill, and keep introducing these kind of bills and allow the governor to veto them. He will, but the North Carolina populace will begin to understand where he is coming from if they don't already. Jim Perry, our friend Jim Perry, who serves as the majority whip in the North Carolina Senate, introduced legislation Senate Bill 546 to prevent lobbyists from serving on the board of governors for the UNC system. I would have thought this was already in there. Apparently it was not. This legislation represents good public policy regardless of someone's political affiliation. This is another step in the continuous improvement process and the quest for good governance. A common sense bill. Will Governor veto this one as well? He seems to veto anything that Republicans introduce and pass. Hey, we got to take a time out. 561-8255. Love to hear from you. Lots more to talk about, including this new law down in Georgia. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
It's not the Republican Party versus the Democrat Party.
Talking about what matters.
It's the Republican Party versus an organized crime syndicate.
On Talk 96.3 and 103.7. Here's Tom Lamprecht with more news and views.
Welcome back in. 26 minutes past the top of the hour. Taking a look at your weather forecast. Mostly clear tonight, a low around 52. Tomorrow, sunshine, high near 86. I'm not complaining about the warm weather. I love it. Wednesday night, mostly clear, low around 55. Thursday, a slight chance of showers in the afternoon. Otherwise, sunny with a high near 80. Weather brought to you by our friends at the Ironwood Golf and Country Club. Voted best golf course in Greenville 2 years in a row. Ironwood Golf and Country Club boasts an 18-hole Lee Trevino design course, full-service dining and outdoor pool, tennis, and more. Our newly renovated 15,000-square-foot clubhouse is the perfect place to make new traditions with your family. For a limited time, join Ironwood, pay zero initiation fees. Give them a call, 252-752-4653. Find out what makes Ironwood the best of Greenville, 252-752-4653. Be a part of the best Ironwood Golf and Country Club. So down in Georgia, they are saying so long to the All-Star game. They're saying that this will cost Georgians $100 million in lost revenue, and most of that money would have been realized by Atlanta. It's really interesting. Now, Raphael Warnock and Stacey Abrams, who came out and condemned this new Georgia law, which, by the way, I mean, this whole thing is a crock. I mean, if you actually read the law, you'll find that there's some things that have been rearranged, but early voting is the same. They're not going to have these unmanned ballot drop boxes, but they will have places you can drop your ballots off. Biden comes out not once but twice and says that the polls will close at 5 o'clock so people can't vote after work. That's an absolute lie. And he knew it was a lie. But now Raphael Warnock and Stacey Abrams are saying, please don't boycott us. Please don't boycott us. The irony is Delta Airlines is condemning the law because you have to have a voter ID. Well, guess what? You got to have an ID to get on Delta Airlines. Guess what? If you go to a Major League Baseball game to buy a beer, you've got to have an ID. If you go to Will Call to pick up your baseball tickets, you got to have an ID. The Political Insider is reporting that Marco Rubio, this is great. Marco Rubio took it to the Major League Baseball commissioner, Rob Manfred, to give up his membership at Augusta National Golf Club. You know what? If Georgia's not good enough for you there, Rob, I can only assume that you're going to give up your membership at Augusta National. Don't hold your breath, Senator Rubio. So you're evil. You're evil if you go against the narrative. Stacey Abrams said Black, Latino, AAPI, and Native Americans, they're the voters that are the most suppressed over the new law. They're likely to be hurt by potential boycotts to Georgia. To our friends, please do not boycott us. To my fellow Georgians, stay and fight, stay and vote. Kemp accused Abrams, Governor Kemp of Georgia, accused Abrams of profiting millions off this politicking. People need to follow the money and see why they're doing this and so effective. And quite honestly, why they're working so hard at this, it has nothing to do with the merits of the bill. It's political pressure from a minority group of people, the cancel culture. They're shaking people down for a long time, he said. Bingo! That's exactly what Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson have been doing for decades. He added that it's also likely a distraction for Democrats to keep Americans' mind off of Joe Biden's border crisis and the unconstitutional power grab of H.R. 1. Well said. I mean, is it not interesting how all the liberals are vilifying this bill and calling it something it's not, making all kinds of accusations about the bill that are untrue. I mean, even the Washington Post has come out and said this is a crock. But they'll continue to say it. But isn't it interesting that while you have H.R. 1, which is truly devastating to our nation and totally unconstitutional, and yet all the liberals and the mainstream media and the corporate cowards are all caving on this. 5618255. Let's go to Alan. Hey, Alan, how are you? Oh, Sutton. I'm sorry. Sutton. Then we'll get to Alan. Hey, Sutton.
Hello, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Good to hear from you. Did you have a good Easter?
Oh, yeah, sure. Good Easter. Good Easter. Had a great Easter. You know, God is good all the time.
Amen. Amen, brother.
And the thing is this right here about that. Now, even that Trump is not in office now, he still, I feel like, did a great thing by strengthening these people to understand that you got to fight. In the fight, you're going to have to take a blow. Now, in Georgia, they lying. They lying like they is about anything else. But somewhere down the line.
Did we lose Sutton? Sutton, call us back. I think we lost you. Let's go to Alan. Oh, there you are. There you are.
Come out.
Say that again, Sutton. We lost your audio for a second.
I say what I was saying, like, you know, Donald Trump came in, and even that they stole that election from him, his fight is still going on. Because a lot of these states, a lot of the Republican leaders and states and stuff like that, they wouldn't stand up and fight against these liberals and all them lies and all that stuff. They would sit down there and let them dictate what way they're going to go.
Yep.
Now, to take a stand, things like happen in Georgia, how they pulling things out behind the lie and everything. But that lie, it's going to surface. The truth going to come out. And if these Republican states will continue to stand and stand against that lie, because I was just so surprised of so many people that would come to me and talk about that thing and did not know the truth because the news media that they listened at was telling them a lie.
Yep.
The President of the United States gets up and tells lies to try to stir up trouble. I mean, that's Republican states continue to stand and say, you know what? I'm going to stand on the truth. You can put that lie, you can take a few dollars out of the state, but for what I'll lose or stand on the truth, I'll gain it so much greater.
Well, you know, that's a great point, and it reminds me that, quite frankly, I think in a sense that when it came to HB2, North Carolina caved on that. When the NCAA said we're going to take all these college events out of your state, I'm sorry, but I think McCrory backed down on that, and we ended up backing down. I know we didn't eliminate it completely, but we backed down from that, and it worked. And now I think down in Georgia, they're saying, okay, we're gonna come after you now if you don't do what the woke crowd, the council culture crowd is saying, we're going to take away your goodies if you don't do what we say. And I hope that Georgia doesn't cave. It doesn't sound like they are. It sounds like Governor Kemp is hanging tough.
They're not. The only way you're going to deal with a bully is you're going to have to stand up against it.
Yep.
And the Democrat and that platform and all that little lying and stuff they do, they try to be like bullies. They try to say like, boo, I'm going to see who's going to get scared or who's going to stand.
You got it.
And if the Republican states will stand up against that, you know, the new media is working in the Democrat favor with all this lies. The Democrat put out a lie. They going to get it. But after a period of time, if they stand on the truth and fight, don't run cowardly, it'll all come to pass. The only way we're going to stand up against this cancer culture is to stand up on the truth and fight. That's the only way.
Yep.
And Georgia is doing a great thing.
Well, I agree with you, Sutton. The thing that's a little scary about this right now is the fact that they are going out of their way to jam everything through and change the rules. I mean, if this H.R. 1 goes through, which, again, I think is unconstitutional. I think if it gets to the Supreme Court, it's going to be knocked down. But, you know, the things that they're trying to pull, I think the Democrats actually agree with you, Sutton, that we will know the truth. The truth will eventually come out. And that's why they are working so hard to set up a system that can't be broken in their favor, that it would be totally in their favor. It's shameful what they're doing, but it's also unconstitutional, and it's also extremely damaging if they get away with it. I mean, as in, like, it could be the end of our republic if they were to get away with it. 5618255. Let's go to Alan. Hey, Alan.
Hey, how you doing, Tom?
Doing well. Good to hear from you.
Yeah, I've got one question for you. I caught your show a couple weeks ago, and we had Keith Kidwell on there, and he was talking about the gun sanctuary state. Have you heard anything else about that? Have they brought that up for votes yet, or they still working on it?
I don't know. We'll have Keith back in here on Thursday, and I can ask him. I do know that, out in Oklahoma, they had a very similar bill that passed their I think it's actually I don't know if it's the governor has signed it yet, but I think it passed their House and their Senate. And that bill is patterned very much. The bill that Keith is talking about is patterned very much after that Oklahoma bill. My hunch is it will pass the House and the Senate. I'd be surprised if it didn't. But again, I would fully expect Governor Cooper to veto it.
Yeah. I remember him talking about that too. But he also felt like there was going to be enough to go ahead and override his veto, which is what they need to be able to do.
Yeah, and that might be one that they can override the veto on. Is there enough Democrats that live in rural areas that the right to bear arms is an important issue even amongst Democrats?
Right.
It'll be a wait and see deal, but. So many of these Democrats, I mean, they're just following lockstep with Governor Cooper, and, Governor Cooper threatens to take away or, run somebody against them, and they usually cower. And apparently the little senator in front of their name or, House member in front of their name is so important to them that they'll sell their soul. So
yeah, I had also received an email where Missouri had passed a statewide gun sanctuary law too. And they had some other stuff come up in theirs. But one more thing, the Major League Baseball team. Major League Baseball. Yeah, I'd heard that they had. I was listening to Sean Hannity today, and if I understood him correct, they plan on moving to Colorado for the finals or whatever.
Yeah, that's correct. That is correct.
And he said that apparently they didn't check into their voting laws because they're actually stricter than what Georgia now has.
It doesn't matter. That's the problem, though, Alan. It doesn't matter because they have a narrative that they want to project, and they don't care. And, Colorado's got enough liberals over there that they'll be happy.
Oh,
so, Anyway.
Well, it's just a shame that there's not enough people with a brain to see any of that mess, but. It is what it is, man. We just got to deal with it as it comes, day at a time.
Keep up the fight. Keep praying. Thanks, Alan. Hey, we're going to take a time out. When we get back, I've got some audio I want to play from you. Perhaps you've heard it, but it came out last week. Ami Horowitz, and it really deals with this whole voter ID and this Georgia law, and it will blow your mind. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
This is your Drive at 5 and ENC with Tom Lamprecht. Welcome back to News and Views on Talk 96.3 and 103.7.
Welcome back in. Two stories that have just broken. One, out of the Epoch Times, the White House apparently is saying that there will not be a vaccination passport. We'll see how long that lasts. But the other story, we're talking about the transgender bill that Norm Sanderson helped introduce. No one under the age of 21 will be able to have this irreversible surgery, which is, again, I call it child abuse. But to show you what a fraud this is, the Daily Caller is reporting that since January, 261 California prison inmates have requested transfer to prisons. 255 of these prison mates are men who want to go to women's prisons, all saying, well, I now identify as a female.
Oh, my.
Come on. I mean, we know you're an idiot, Gavin Newsom, but are you that dumb? Gavin Newsom signed SB 132 into law in January. The bill requires the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation to ask every individual entering the department's custody to specify their pronouns, their gender identity. These are prisoners, for gosh sakes! And whether they identify as a transgender, non-binary, or intersex. 255 men have said, oh, I'm a woman. I want to go to the women's prison. Unbelievable. So talking about the Georgia law, Ami Horowitz, he does these videos. This might be the best one he's ever done. The Daily Wire reran this. This was actually from a couple of years ago, but it is so relevant to this situation down in Georgia. Horowitz first went to the streets of Berkeley, California, asked white liberals about their views on voter ID. No surprise, they all said it was racist. Some of the things that they said, though, were outlandish. Cut one.
Do you have an opinion on voter ID laws?
Yeah, they're usually pretty racist and they're bad. I think voter ID laws are a way to perpetuate racism.
Would you go as far as say those laws are racist?
For sure.
Do you think it suppresses the African American vote?
Definitely, because they're less likely to have state IDs.
Minority voters are less likely to have the kinds of IDs that have been described or required.
These type of people don't live in areas with easy access to DMVs or other places where they can get identification.
You can always get IDs you do over the internet. Does that also make it difficult for black people in particular?
Yeah, you have to have access to the internet. You have to be able to pay an internet service provider for certain fees.
Do you think that's harder for black people to go online?
Well, I feel like they don't have the knowledge of how it works. For most of the communities, they don't really know what is out there just because they're not aware or they're not informed. I also think there's a repression of black voting with how if you're a convicted felon, you're not allowed to vote and everything. And when you look at swing states like Florida, that's a huge population of the African Americans.
Wow. Talk about racist. I mean, this is blatant. I mean, I have said for a long time that these liberals that come and say, you can't expect a black person to go out and get a voter ID. The fact that liberals, everything that they're for and the conservatives against is because the conservatives are racist. I mean, that's their answer for everything. But stop it. And did you hear what that one woman said? First of all, said, well, they're too ignorant to know how to work the internet. Unbelievable. And then this woman says, if we look at a swing state like Florida, that's a huge population of African Americans, suggesting most convicted felons are black. Unbelievable. So then Horowitz goes up to East Harlem, New York, and basically recites the responses from these enlightened people in Berkeley, California, and he gets the response from black citizens of East Harlem, New York. Cut two.
Do you have ID normally? Do you carry ID around?
Yes, I have state ID.
Do you carry ID?
Yes, I do.
Do you know any black person who doesn't carry ID?
No. Everyone that I know has an ID.
Why would they think we don't have ID?
That's a lie. Why would they say that?
Do you have ID?
Yes.
Because I have my ID and my friends have their ID, so like, we know what we need to carry around.
Everybody that I know have ID. Like, that's one of the things you need to walk around with New York with, an ID.
Do you know any black adult who does not have ID?
No, I don't.
Is it a weird thing to even say that?
Yes, it is.
What is this, some type of trick candy camera?
I know, right?
That's the only thing I brought with me.
Those are legit IDs. I heard a lot also that black people can't figure out how to get to the DMV.
Really?
What does that say to you?
I know it's that, on 25th Street.
Do you know where the DMV is around you?
It's on 125th Street and 3rd Avenue, I believe.
You know how to get there?
Yeah.
Would you have a problem getting there if you had to get there?
No.
You know how to get to the DMV?
Of course.
You know where it is?
Yes.
You can get there?
Uh-huh.
No problem.
No problem.
Just checking.
Okay.
And I also heard a lot that black people, especially poor black people, have no access to the internet, can't figure out how to use the internet.
That's just stupidity, honestly. Everybody has access to the internet. Even a little kid can figure out how to work the internet.
I had access to the internet for years.
You know how to use it properly, right?
Exactly. I do it at work. So, of course, I know how to use it. My kids know how to use it. They all have iPads, iPods, whatever.
Your phone has data? Mm-hmm. You can actually
unlimited.
Unlimited data.
Mm-hmm. I use my phone as a hotspot.
What does that say to you for the people who have this perception of black people?
They're pretty much ignorant now.
I just think that's ignorant.
Ignorant. Very, very ignorant.
Does it sound racist for somebody to say that?
I think it is a little racist because, you're putting people in a category and you have no idea what you're talking about.
Maybe a little bit of racist in it, but like I said, I think it's more stupidity and ignorance.
You're judging somebody, but you're judging them because they black, saying that they don't got it.
Who are these people talking to?
Do you have a problem that if you go to vote and they say, can we please see your ID to make sure you are who you say you are? Are you
Love
cool?
showing my ID.
You got no problem with that?
Nope.
Would you have a problem if when you go to vote, if they say, can we please just see your ID to make sure you are who you say you are? Do you have an issue with that?
No.
Would you have a problem if there was a rule where you had to show your ID in order to vote?
I don't think so. No.
Come on, man.
Wow. Yeah, how dare those black people say that? How dare they say that? Don't you know that you don't know how to use the internet? Don't you know that you don't know where DMV is? Don't you know that you can't get an ID? And this is what these liberals are saying.
Free internet at the library, too.
It is insulting what these people have said. Sutton's back with us. Hey, Sutton.
Yes, and being a black man myself, it's very insulting to know that my little grandson, I guess about 2-3 years old, he could take my phone and go anywhere he wants to on it pretty much.
He probably can outdo you, right? I mean, that's how kids are.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. But number two, they asked the wrong question. They need to ask how many people, if they would get a check or get finances of some sort, could have an ID to catch it, will not they get an ID from somewhere? That's number two. Yep. They playing this daggone thing way back from the 40s and the 30s game, and they're racist, and they trying to make it like African Americans can't get IDs. Well, Latinos can't get IDs. If you're over here legal, you may not get one, but most African Americans over here were pretty much born or generated over here. And if they don't have it, it's a responsibility for them to get it, as in the whites or as in anybody. It don't make no sense, and it bothers me.
Well, it ought to bother you, Sutton. Look, I'm not a black man, but it bothers me. I mean, the blatant racist comments. I mean, you go back a couple of hundred years ago when people were saying, of the black people, well, they're just, even the adults, they're just children. You have to treat them like children. What a racist comment that was. And these people are still saying it. These liberals are still saying it. We'll be right back.
News and views.
He's kind of a diva. He's absolutely fascinating.
Ultimate gentleman spy. Irresistible to women, deadly to his enemies, a legend in his own time.
You won't believe what he's going to say next on Talk 96.3 and 103.7. Here's Tom Lempreck.
Welcome back in. So earlier in the program, we talked about this new Senate Bill 514, which was introduced by amongst three Republicans, including Norm Sanderson from Pamlico County. And basically, it would restrict surgical and chemicals that are being used on transgenders to block puberty and to irreversible surgeries that would cut off you-know-what. There was a similar bill to this new Senate bill down in Arkansas, and Asa Hutchinson, who's a Republican, vetoed the bill. It was HB 1570. This afternoon, the Arkansas House and Senate voted to override Hutchinson's veto of the bill. It was called the Save Adolescents from Experimentation SAFE Act. The bill would prohibit a physician or other healthcare provider in Arkansas from providing any gender transition procedures to minors that are intended to alter the gender of a child or delay puberty. Experimental puberty-blocking drugs and cross-sex hormones may have a long-lasting impact on fertility, so advocates have branded them as chemical castration. The Arkansas House overrode Hutchinson's veto 72-25. The Senate overrode the veto 25-8. I mean, that's not even close. Hutchinson, who signed laws protecting religious freedom in health care and banning biological males from competing against females in women's sports, vetoed HB 1570 on Monday, and the legislature promptly overrode the veto today. We can only hope that we have enough thinking Democrats in our House and our Senate that we could override Governor Cooper's veto, because he will veto this Senate Bill 514. Hey, thanks for being with us. Good to be back. We'll do it again tomorrow at 5 o'clock. We'll see you then. Bye-bye, everybody.
All right.